Today is the 24th regular meeting of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, please bless our meeting today. May our discussions be fruitful, our decisions wise, and our community strong. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Here.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Here.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Present. Next on our agenda is public comment. Would any member of the public wishing to address the board step forward to the podium, and after stating your name and address, you have 3 minutes.
Good morning, Brian Massey, 8196 Rainbow Drive, average citizen on behalf of Lobbyists for Citizens. I just want to make the commissioners aware. My Christian brother and I, Leonard Gilbert, went down last week to the state capitol to offer testimony in front of the Joint Committee on Property Taxes Review and Reform. It was chaired by Senator Blessing and Representative Romer. When I spoke before the committee, I was censored. I spoke for 5 minutes, and the last half of the speech was censored by someone. I did contact the Chairman Romer, also to Representative Troy and Representative Callender. Representative Troy is on the committee. Representative Callender is my representative. I wanted to make sure that they're aware of what is happening. I did receive a response from Chairman Romer's Chief of Staff saying it was unfortunately just a glitch or a computer error. And what they did originally was they played classical music over my audio, and then when I looked at it again, they actually edited out the entire video and audio. I later found out that the ohiochannel.org that displays or shows the committee meetings is owned or run by PBS, and the mission that I picked up online was the mission of the Ohio Channel is to provide the citizens of Ohio with unbiased, unedited, and nonpartisan access to public proceedings of the state government and to inform the public about current topics that affect their communities. I've asked for Chairman Romer. I've asked him how is he going to rectify the situation, because I think it is appalling that the average citizens are censored by our state government. I just want to make sure that our commissioners and the people in our community know what is happening. It's all just an illusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Weiss from Leroy. Wanted to let everybody know once again, my phone number is 440-494-2683. I want to reach out and thank my new friends from Belmont, North Carolina, Cambridge, Massachusetts, New York City. Keep sending me the documents. Interestingly here, I held a document, University of Memphis Digital Commons. Three essays on ethics and responsibility in taxation. This is dated August 2015. It's the submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirements for the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. I wonder who the author could be. James Matthias Plechnik. That's your brother, isn't it, Boss Plechnik? In his abstract, he writes, this dissertation presents 3 papers that examine the impact of ethics on the field of taxation. Many observers assert that the field of taxation is without morals. That is, tax preparers and taxpayers attempt to exploit the system as much as possible. I would bet a steak dinner he's talking about you in here. I noticed he didn't put you in his dedication. Next document I have, from the CRNC, the College Republican National Committee. You participated in that, didn't you, Bosch Plechnik? You remember that organization? Best party on campus since 1892? Holding a document, the CRNC World News, dated June 29th, 2007. In an email today, former Massachusetts CR State Chairman and current Chairman of the CRN's Northeast Caucus, Mike Miltenberger, accused Ohio's Brian Seiler of deceitful campaign tactics and money laundering. Miltenberger stated Brian has claimed on video to have raised over $200,000 for Ohio college Republicans, yet they have never registered with the FEC, that's the Federal Election Commission, or the Ohio Secretary of State as a group involved in elections. Where did the laundered money go if he truly had it? No one knows, but Brian refuses to answer. Miltenberger also accused John Plechnik of being the intellect behind Seiler's supposed shadow campaign of deceit. Plechnik is a former North Carolina college Republican who now works in New York as an attorney. At that time, you were at Thatcher, Prophet, and Wood, right? Some people there have been talking to me as well. You were also presumably at New York University obtaining your master's degree. So I wonder, where did the money go? Where did the $200,000 go? Did you fund your master's degree in law with that? I wonder. I see I'm almost out of time. Tune in next week. We'll be talking about the dog shelter and other things.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Thank you for your...
Anyone else for public portion?
My name's Brian Kulkowski. I'm an attorney here in Lake County, Ohio. Part of the reason I'm here is because of the attack we just heard on Mr. Plechnik. Back some time ago, when the Lake County Commissioners were trying to pass a sales tax increase, I called every one of the commissioners up, and the only response I got, and the one who answered his own phone, was John Plechnik. So I'm in here. I don't know John that well, but I see these as ad hominem attacks. They're personal attacks against Mr. Plechnik with no factual basis that Mr. Weiss is putting forward. I think that Mr. Weiss has done some good things in the past, but these personal attacks are out of hand, and they occur week after week after week, and we want to see the business of the county done, not these personal attacks. I also want to ask Mr. Hamercheck, do you have a personal relationship with Mr. Weiss? Because it's my understanding it's possible you do. And if that's the case, you should make it known to the public that you've had a personal relationship, but you are against these attacks to your fellow commissioner. That's all I have to say. I appreciate the work that John's doing here. I think he's taking some of this flack because he was willing to stand up to people over this tax increase, and I want to thank John for what he's done. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public portion?
Good morning, 200 West Jackson Street. My name is Reginald Black. I'm here because I agree with what the gentleman just said a few minutes ago. We are here for county business. I feel like the things that are taking place right now is more so slander, and I pray that these things come to an end. I pray that we get more focused on the matter at hand. And Mr. Plechnik, I think you're doing a great job. To all our commissioners, I think you're doing a great job. To our administrators, I think you're doing a great job. And we should have more appreciation for the task that you have at hand. And I pray that you continue to focus and move forward for Lake County. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else for public portion? Oh, one more. Mr. Mayor.
Morning, Commissioners. John Mara, 39 Minnewawa Drive, Timberlake. all I have to say is he who has no sin shall cast the first stone. So anyway, I want to talk about the LGF fund first of all. First of all, the property tax increase. That's, again, I brought it up a few times, and with the sextennial coming up and the increases, I believe that any tax that causes a person to be homeless is immoral. And it basically, what they're doing is they're taxing people out of their homes, whether it be the elderly or even the young. And it's not right, it's not fair. These houses are not appreciating like they say in value. They're depreciating in value. They need, severe repair and maintenance. And it's just not fair to penalize people for putting money and investing into their home to make it better, and then also get penalized because now the property tax goes up, the valuation goes up. So anyway, secondly, I want to bring up about 2 weeks ago, they had the Budget Commission had a meeting, and the ad hoc committee presented basically a formula to adjust the LGF distribution. And what they're trying to do is, over 10 years, they're trying to go from a need-based formula, which was only based 5% on population and 95% based on need back in '82, to a 100% population alone. And they put together a formula where, with 2% increase and so forth. But first I want to bring up, they said that the current formula was inequitable because, again, some communities were getting like a 400 or a 400% increase, okay? And some of them were getting like 181% increase. But what they didn't tell you is that there's going to be 14 communities who are going to lose a lot of money by going to population only. And these are like 35%, one community will lose 36%, 67%. The parks will get nothing according to their formula. Anyway, so what they've done is they put together a formula where they've redistributed the money, and to get to at 10 years, to get to their 100% population, really it's only going to be 90%, but what they've done is they made 12 of the 14 communities who are going to basically be losing under the population alone, they made them flat for 10 years, which means their revenue will be this, or their income from the LGF will be the same for the next 10 years. And the problem is they have a 2% growth, but if it doesn't grow by 2%, the amount will be penalized to them. They will be decreased by that amount. And if it does grow, they have to grow by more than what their population is formula, which for like Timberlake would be 146% we'd have to grow by in order in order for us to get any more money if the fund gets more money. So anyway, what we need to concentrate on is, number one, getting the money back that the state took. They took half the money in 2012 or 2011. We should get half of that, that money back, number one. That was only supposed to be temporary for 2 years. And number two, we were not given another option with this formula. It's going to be put in front of the council to basically either vote for this or we go to statutory, which they say that if we go to statutory, it's only going to, basically it's going to be less money to go around because more money will go to the county. Well, we still haven't seen what those exact numbers are, so we can even compare it to something. All they say is that, well, either way you'll get less, which is great, but the thing is, we don't have a choice. They're not giving us a choice of what plan to do. So I'm suggesting we have another plan that I put together where we're taking a formula and we gradually build into a 50% over 5 years. Well, first you'll be 10% based on population, 90% need. The next year will be 80, and then it'll go all the way to 50-50 at year 5. And at year 5, we'll have a sunset clause that either we can pause and stop it and leave it there. Because again, I believe if we want to compromise, they want to go 100% population. Right now, it's only 5%. We should compromise at 50-50, and basically that's where we end up. And then in 5 years from now, then we'll vote either we can continue at another 10% a year making that transition, or we can just pause it right there and leave it where it is. And then again, we do the same thing with the parks. This way they'll transition. Right now they're not going to give the parks anything, so we'll start from what we're giving the parks now, and we'll go 10% less every year so that they'll be at 50% less after 5 years, so they can also transition with their funding and so forth. So just another option that we should at least have to vote. At least when I present it to my council, I can say, well, this is either this or we go to statutory, which it's either we do this or we either lose or we lose. And again, either way, we don't have anything to gain. And again, they've done well to make the villages and towns or cities, municipalities that were going to lose a lot, burden that transition. But overall, we're supposed to remain flat and pass a budget where we have no basically any where we have no idea what we're going to be getting in for the next 10 years. And if it does grow, we're not going to get any more of that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else for public portion? Bishop. You are always the best dressed, Bishop.
Gerard Mabel, 1049 Brentwood Drive, Pennsville, Ohio. Commissioners, a young man and a wise man live in the same village. The young man wanted to give to the wise man a problem that the wise man could not solve. The young man said, I have a bird in my hand. Is the bird alive or dead? The wise man thought about it and said, if I tell him the bird is alive, he'll press his hand and kill the bird. If I tell him the bird is not, again, he will let the bird fly away. Again, he will prove me wrong. He said, I don't know. From my age, from the time I was born to now, I know with God all things are possible. Nothing pleases me the most to live in a place where I can sleep with my door open. And I just want to say thank you to you, commissioners. I just want to say thank you to the city of Pennsville, to Lake County. I just want to say thank you to a great sheriff, Lake County Sheriff Frank Bruno. I just want to say thank you to my community. What a great place to live. There are people dreaming to come and live in a place like America. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public portion? Anyone else? Mr. Auditor.
Good morning. Christopher Galloway, Lake County Auditor, Concord, Ohio. I left my Pop-Tart behind. I wasn't planning on speaking, but I do want to just kind of address what Mayor Mara said on two fronts, because I think both those items involve some of the work that my office has been engaged in. First, as it relates to the sexennial appraisal that we are in the midst of, I know I have discussed with President Pleshnik the idea of coming here in the next couple weeks and giving a small presentation to the Board of Commissioners about where we are with the reappraisal process that is we are, of course, having to do in 2024. And I will figure out a date that works in terms of my ability to put some materials together, present it to you guys, and come in and be able to talk to you and the public regarding that. I do take a little umbrage with the mayor's comments about the housing market. There is no universe right now at all in which the housing market is depreciating or down. In the last 5 years, it is up considerably, not only in Northeast Ohio, but nationally. It is currently up year over year in Lake County by a little over, just this year alone, by over 7%. Volume is down in terms of transactions, but values are continue to increase. Now, there may be individual properties that for some reason or another may be within a distressed situation, and that is why we have the Board of Revision process that is open to all citizens every year to be able to come into the county and provide evidence and argue as it relates to their house value. So that is a statutorily guaranteed process and right for every property owner. And those are actually ongoing right now. We've had a number of hearings this week down in my office with the BOR for that purpose. But I will say we have almost 114,000 parcels in this county, and we only had approximately 340 complaints filed. That's 340 complaints on value out of nearly 114,000 parcels. I'll let Commissioner Regovich do the quick back of the napkin math on what percentages that folks felt that they were being treated unfairly. Our goal is to always treat the taxpayers fairly. Our job is to be fair and equitable, is to arrive at the right value. And sometimes it's difficult in the sense that we don't always have all the information that we need or want, and that's why I tell everyone, if you disagree with our assessment, please come in and see us. We want to get it right. Whether it's up or down, That's not our concern. Our concern is getting it right, or as close as we can. Second, I've had the pleasure of being a part of the ad hoc committee that was formed by the mayors and managers to work on the LGF alternative formula. I know Commissioner Hammercheck has also been a part of that, and I would just say I expect a final formula to be presented from that committee to the Budget Commission any day now. There was another meeting by that committee yesterday, and I feel like they're probably very close to putting a bow on it. I would say that I've only been to about half the meetings because as auditor, my role has been more of providing information, support, playing devil's advocate. It's really up to the communities and those mayors in that room and those trustees and administrators to really work on how they think that it's going to, work best for as many entities as possible. And I would say that my impression of that process has been one of collaboration, for the most part, very positive. I mean, there are times when things can get a little tense, right? Because you have, in essence, 25 entities at the trough looking, for their dinner, right? So everybody has gone into that with a sense of community and trying to figure out a way to come up with a formula that reduces the losses for those who might be seeing a loss, mitigates some of the quote-unquote wins, and that's what helps offset those quote-unquote losses. I think, Commissioner Hammercheck's input in this process has been invaluable in terms of communicating the county's goals as he sees them within this process. And, so I think it's been a very positive thing. Is every single entity going to be 100% happy with the final formula? No. Not everybody has been happy with the formula that's been in place for the last 42 years. There's been a lot of communities that have been very unhappy with that formula for the last 42 years. But I do think that there's been a very good open process within that room of discussing what everybody's needs are and how to drive towards something that is fair as can be determined. Now, again, keep in mind, 25 entities looking for dollars. That's a hard equation to put together when you've got 25 separate interests in that room lobbying, in essence, for maximization of their dollars. And I want to commend the committee for that work. It is not an easy process, and I think it's been one that I would say that, based on the leadership in that room, I don't know that even 10 years ago would have even been possible. But because of things like the pandemic and the communities working closer together, Commissioner Regovich, you were a mayor. You were deeply involved in all that, in that cooperation, and I think that has sort of moved into this process. So my expectation is that we will have an alternative formula, probably from that group, in order to for the Budget Commission to send out for consideration. Mayor Mara is correct when he says that it's sort of all or nothing. In essence, that's true. Anyone, of course, can submit a formula to be considered, but the issue is, as I've said, and I said in our public hearing, this is a process that started with first a legal question, determining that our old formula was no longer valid. Then it became a math question and balancing the interests of 25 entities. And now it's a political question, right? Because in any formula ultimately that you do that is going to involve 25 political subdivisions, 25 government agencies, you have to have a consensus. And a formula that does not build a consensus is not a formula. If you do not have the votes to be able to pass a formula, it's just a writing on a paper. You have to be able to get a formula that enough communities will be willing to support and say that this is a fair formula for us moving forward. And I think that the committee is very close to that. But that said, anyone can submit a formula. And yes, when a formula goes to a body to ratify an alternative formula, if that body doesn't, that city council or that board of trustees approves a formula that's not the same formula as other entities, as say the county or the city of Mentor, or those are the two veto authorities that have veto power, then it's in essence a no vote on whatever everyone else is considering, including amending the formula that's brought to them, because it has to match for everybody. And so from that standpoint, what he says is true. It's all or nothing, up or down. That's true. That is the process outlined in ORC. There's no fungibility there. So that being said, I think this board can expect, probably, early next week, hopefully, something in front of you for your consideration as well. We are hoping to move that along as quick as possible. And like I said, it's sometimes it's a pretty good result when everybody walks out of the room and says, no one's particularly truly happy, but everybody goes, okay, right? Because some aren't getting everything they want. Some are taking a small cut. Some are, but at the end of the day, everybody recognizes that we're in a boat. It's a finite amount of money on what has been, to what he pointed out, since 2012, a shrinking pie. And so, I think the committee has done good work to get us to a point of being able to present this to communities to consider for adoption. Now, as far as the state statutory formula goes, if we do not have an alternative formula adopted within a reasonable time frame in July, my office will have to begin the process of planning for using the state statutory formula, which will include the required need hearings in the month of July. And as Mayor Mara has correctly pointed out, that it has been said that nobody wants to be on that. And I stand behind that. There's a reason 87 counties aren't using it. And the one that is, Coshocton, is in the process of doing what we're doing, trying to come up with an alternative formula to get off of it. Nobody wants to be on a formula that was designed by the state legislature before we walked on the moon, okay? We would rather have a formula that's decided by our elected officials here, locally, right now in 2024. That's a better model. And regarding his comment about none of us know what that is exactly, that's true. My office has provided a spreadsheet to that working committee based on our best guess on what that would look like. I do believe that I still have 4 communities that never responded to our requests for information for that. So that should give you first and foremost an example of the challenges that will be in determining that formula. So it's incomplete regardless, because I have 4 communities that didn't respond. So it's incomplete in that regard. The other portion that's incomplete is the fact that the need hearings themselves are a large determiner of the final numbers. Well, without need hearings, I can't have a final number to present to anybody. So that's an accurate, but also, fundamentally from a spirit of the law sense, not quite an accurate statement to say that we're not providing them the information. We provided what we can provide with what we have. But if we are forced to go the state statutory route, those 3 members of the Budget Commission will determine all these subdivisions need, and we will be the determiners of what your budgetary needs are, and we will decide what you're going to need in the forthcoming year. And I got to tell you, I don't believe there's any member of the Budget Commission that wants that to be in that position. And I don't think that there are many communities that want to be in that position either. So I'm very pleased with the work that's been done so far, and I'm sure Commissioner Hamercheck has plenty to add to that because he's been a very active member of those meetings and that process. And like I said, I expect to have a formula that you guys will be able to review and have for your consideration and your debate, and hopefully maybe even a resolution to support in the very near future. As we move it along, but I just want to assure that I think it's been a very positive approach has been taken, and I commend all the members of that committee for the work that they've done. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else for public portion? Going once, going twice, then on to resolutions. And without objection from my colleagues, I'd like to move resolution number 9 with respect to the key of Lake County up front so that our guests can appreciate our presentation without having to sit through the whole meeting. So if there's no objection, we'll move up 9. Madam Clerk?
Resolution establishing the key to Lake County as our community's highest honor and recognizing David E. Anderson as the inaugural recipient for his extraordinary and significant contributions to his home in Lake County, Ohio.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
You know there's gonna be, right? Kick it off, sir. It's your idea.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. If I could just say, the city of Willoughby is named for a congressman who never visited, but it was built by a mayor who never left. When I talk to my friends from outside of Lake County, the one place they know is downtown Willoughby. They love the establishments, the energy, the fun, and while we complain about the parking, as many a mayor has said, as many a councilman has said since Mayor Anderson's time, that's a good thing. The downtown Willoughby is so packed, it's hard to find a parking spot on a weeknight, on a day that doesn't even matter. It's not a holiday, it's not a special occasion, it's packed anyway. It's a statement to the icon that downtown Willoughby is, not just for Lake County, but for the east side of Cleveland. In many respects, it's the entertainment center outside of downtown Cleveland. But we forget, those of us who enjoy it today, that downtown Willoughby was not always this way. Past elected officials and residents would comment that you could stand in the middle of the road in Willoughby and wouldn't be hit by a car. You could just daydream, it would be fine. There was no one coming through. But there was a man who had a vision to transform Willoughby from a sleepy town into a real center and engine for economic development. And while his goal was certainly to help his neighbors in Willoughby and the west side, it's amazing how that brand has spread throughout all of Lake County. When Mr. Anderson, not the one from the Matrix, from Willoughby, decided to retire, it was so well deserved. And the community came together to wish him well as he finally got to appreciate a break. But Mr. Anderson was not done in service to his local community. Instead of enjoying retirement, enjoying the downtown that he built, he saw another challenge in front of him because the success of Willoughby needed to be extended to all of Lake County. And so when he was asked to serve as director of the Port Authority, which he worked to rebrand and rename as the Lake Development Authority, he said yes. He'd foregone all the benefits of retirement and took on another job, a new job, to be the Chief Economic Development Officer for the Lake County Commissioners and all of Lake County. And as we see the incredible growth in the wine region, as we see the new branding of Tour Lake County, the exemplification of our restaurants, and in the past year in particular, our Mexican restaurants, and the folks who are coming in to experience everything we have to offer. Hotels are being built every couple years and they are full. They are over capacity relative to neighboring counties, and they are charging more per night than neighboring counties because people want to visit here. Mayor Anderson made Willoughby a destination. Director Anderson has made Lake County a burgeoning destination, and we are all beneficiaries of his hard work. Now, we didn't want him to retire. We were hoping to fool him into signing a 100-year contract, but we recognize that the time is right because Mayor Anderson didn't just build up Lake County tourism, he also built up an incredible group around him. His board on the Lake Development Authority, his staff, including Patrick Mahorsic, who is the successor, the new director for the Lake Development Authority. And if I could take a moment, Patrick was not able to join us today, but he asked if there was any way that his comments could be read into the record because it's so important to him to recognize the titan that he's following. And I quote the executive director of the Lake Development Authority, Patrick T. Mahorsic, also Willowick councilman. Throughout our lives, we often look up to individuals who embody success and inspire us with their achievements. For many, it's athletes, the Fortune 500 CEOs, and the celebrities who capture our admiration, leading lives filled with richness and surrounded by fascinating individuals we aspire to emulate. For me, that figure is Dave Anderson. Meeting him 3 years ago marked a turning point, not just professionally, but profoundly on a personal level. Through working with Dave, I've grown into a better future husband, friend, and colleague. In him, I've found not just a mentor, but a second father figure, guiding me through life's storms and celebrating my triumphs with unwavering love and support. In many ways, I've come to feel like the third son in the Anderson family, deeply touched by Dave's wisdom and care. His journey, spanning both private and public sectors, epitomizes the kind of rich and meaningful life I aspire to lead. Yet beyond career accomplishments, it's Dave, the man Dave is, the husband, the father, that truly inspires me. Dave embodies the spirit of service, living out the ethos of ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. He's a shining example of how ordinary individuals can make extraordinary contributions to their communities. My hope is that one day I can mirror the impact and character of Dave Anderson, enriching lives and making a difference wherever I go. Once again, our current director of the Lake Development Authority. So I would close my comments in saying, as we establish Lake County's highest honor, the key to Lake County, there is no individual who is more deserving or who more embodies the spirit of Lake County, Ohio, than our former mayor, our former director, our neighbor and friend, Dave Anderson. And we know that every subsequent recipient will be honored to share this award with you, because you can't say Lake County, you can't talk about Willoughby without talking about the man who built them today. Thank you, Dave. Colleagues?
Well, that deserves a little bit of...
I was fortunate enough to become mayor as Dave was still mayor and got the benefit of his knowledge. For many of you that don't know, I became mayor when our mayor passed away, so there was no book on how to become a mayor and how to do it the right way, and as they say, you know, how to be a mayor for dummies. But Dave was open. The first thing he did is give me his card with the cell phone on it. And I used that card, and I'm so glad I did. His common sense approach to the job, his forthright approach, how he dealt with people, I got to see it, I got to witness it, and I learned a lot in a short amount of time. The only time I ever missed a council meeting in Willowick was when Dave's last council meeting in Willoughby. I felt the need to be there, and I went. I'm so glad I did. And he just transcended beyond that. He, when he came to the county, he was like, "Oh, we have Dave Anderson. We don't have to worry about that. If we have something we needed done and Dave was on it, we didn't have to worry. We knew Dave would go in with a common sense approach. He would go in with fairness. He would make things happen, and we saw it throughout. So we're happy that the Lake Development Authority has had his expert tutelage there. We are confident they will do well in your honor. And we have this award where you're going to get the first one just for someone like you that beyond Willoughby, but for Lake County, all you have done, almost can't put into words. So I thank you. Lake County thanks you.
Mr. President, if I may.
Absolutely.
Well, Dave, I must say I've always been impressed by the story that now Senator Serino tells of how you got to be where you were following your political career. You once ran for commissioner as a true gentleman. Cost you the race, but you stuck with integrity. Probably the best job you never got. It's not always an easy thing sitting up here. But you've always found a way to be a diplomat. You always hold your head high. And you're that go-to guy on sometimes matters that are quite trivial, but others that are quite significant. And you always take those matters seriously. You are the definition of approachable. We are deeply in your debt, sir, for all the service that you provided. You hold a true servant's heart, and we thank you for that.
At this time, I'd like to invite any of Mayor Anderson's board members or friends to come up and share a statement if they wish to. I know there's a lot of the board in attendance and his staff as well, so if anyone would like to come up, current or former staff, board, I want to extend the invitation. You don't have to. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
You don't have
This is why Mayor Anderson is so beloved, but I see that former Commissioner Fellows is here.
So this is totally off the cuff, but David, it's been an honor to know you and Donna for so many years. It's tough. But you represent what our Rotary and Rotary always has talked about, and our motto is service above self. There's no one epitomizes that more than you.
Dave, I'd be remiss with the commissioner not offering up for some of us from your board for expressing our debt of gratitude for you being our executive director. You have done an amazing job. From the first day I came on board, Dave took me aside to share with me what was going on, why this job was so important, and really thoughtfully took the time to help me. But more importantly, as a fellow South High graduate, of course, he's got just a few more years on to me, and a lifelong Willoughby resident. I for my own hometown, I'd always thank Dave, because when I was a kid, there was tumbleweed that would go down Erie Street, much to how Commissioner Plechnik had talked about you could lay down in the street. Dave, you made that happen for all of us. I want to echo what Commissioner Plechnik said. You know, we all love you in Willoughby. You are Lake County's most favored son. And for that, we will always be eternally grateful for all the things you've done for all these many, many decades, giving to others. Thank you.
Mr. Colson, our county prosecutor.
it's hard to follow everything that's been said. But I've been in Lake County and working for Lake County for 50 years now, and I have never met an elected official, a citizen of Lake County, who has been more respected, who has done a more competent job than you, Mayor Anderson. And I'm always going to call you Mayor Anderson, because once you're a mayor, you're always a mayor. And I know you've had other hats lately, dealing with the economic development of Lake County, but also all of the leadership you gave to the narcotics board all those years. That was very important and helped Lake County. What you have been my idol. I respect you. I was upset when you decided you didn't want to be a mayor anymore because Lake County needed you. But Lake County got some more years from you, and hopefully you'll stay a friend of ours. And I don't know what your future plans are, but whatever they are, know that you have a lot of support behind you. And so thank you for everything you've done, Mayor.
Mr. Regovich, if you wouldn't mind doing the honors and read the formal resolution.
Whereas the Board of County Commissioners wishes to establish the Key to Lake County program for so long as Lake County persists. The Key to Lake County shall be our community's highest honor and most prestigious award. It shall be presented by the Lake County Board of Commissioners and given very selectively to honor an individual who has made extraordinary and significant accomplishments and contributions to Lake County, Ohio. Whereas Commissioner John T. Pleshnick proposed the Key to Lake County program with the support of Commissioners John Hamercheck and Richard Regovich. And whereas the Key to Lake County will be awarded after ultimately unanimously consent of the Lake County Board of Commissioners. Whereas David E. Anderson is most deserving as the inaugural recipient of the Key to Lake County. His exceptional achievements and unwavering commitment to the betterment of our county made him an admirable recipient and prestigious accolade. We congratulate Mr. Anderson on this well-earned recognition and thank him for his invaluable contributions and exceptional leadership as mayor of the city of Willoughby and director of the Lake Development Authority. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of County Commissioners in for Lake County, Ohio, hereby recognize the honor of David E. Anderson, a very first Key to Lake County.
So, Madam Clerk, if we might make it official.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hamercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes. And now we introduce the first recipient of the Key to Lake County, Mayor, Director, Neighbor, Dave Anderson.
I got to tell you, there have not been often times in my life when I felt speechless. But I do at this moment. I'm a little awed by this reception. I thank everyone here who came today. So many friends, so many colleagues, so many people I've worked with for so many years. You know, I just... Richard said that I gave him my card with the cell phone on it. I talked to about every new mayor that came in. Every time they were elected, I'd get a phone call because I was the oldest guy, the longest serving. And the question always is, you know, what's the key? You know, what's the secret here? And I'll just share that there's been two principles that I've always tried to follow. The first day I came into to City Hall. I brought with me a plaque that I had actually gone to Things Remembered, and I had made up a plaque with a quote from Mark Twain. And I brought it with me, and I hung it right next to me on the wall. And the quote is from Mark Twain, "Always do what is right. This will gratify some people and astonish everyone else." And I took that to heart many years ago, because it's not always the easiest thing to do what's right. Certainly not the most expedient thing. It often isn't the most popular thing. But it is certainly something that I believed in very, very dearly, and I've always tried to follow. The second principle is that anybody who aspires to a leadership position, their success will be totally dependent on hiring and working with outstanding people. And I was able to do that in Willoughby. I was able to put together an outstanding team of people, because ultimately I might provide a little vision on something, but other people have to go and do all the hard work to make that happen. And I was so blessed to have such a great team. And I was blessed because when I came to the county, I didn't have to build a great team. I walked into an office with a great team, and added to that a little bit. So I really am so happy for the people that I've worked with. They've really made all of these things that you've been talking about, really made them happen. And lastly, you can't last in public office for the 30-some years that I did without support from home. And I have been so blessed for 52 years with my wife, Donna, who's been with me and supported me the entire way. So Donna, I thank you so much. And you know that. So thank you so much for this amazing award. It is deeply appreciated. Thank you.
So, Mr. Anderson, if you would approach the dais and please have Donna join you along with your colleagues and friends for the formal presentation of the resolution and the key to Lake County.
That'd be great.
afraid that the remainder of our resolutions are not nearly as exciting. So anyone who wishes, of course, may depart, but we'll continue with the regular business of the county at this point in time. So going back to resolution number 1.
In the Utilities Department, resolution increasing appropriations and transferring cash within Lake County Department of Utilities Water Fund and Project Fund 595, Transmission Main Rehabilitation, Section 3W, Chagrin River Crossing Project number 482W, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution accepting a 3-year maintenance bond in the amount of $5,265.91 for water lines for May Pine Park Subdivision Phase 2, job number 22-19 in the city of Willoughby Hills.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution providing for not to exceed $840,000 in notes for lift station improvements, Adams, Melridge, and Industrial Park Project 415S 2018 for the Lake County Department of Utilities.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution providing for $1,125,000 note renewal for the Lake County Department of Utilities Project 336S.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution providing for $3 million notes for the Lake County Department of Utilities Aquarius Water Treatment Facility Electrical Motor Control Center Replacement Project 451W 2021.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution providing for $2 million notes for the Lake County Department of Utilities Mentor Wastewater Treatment Facility Digester Cleaning and Rehabilitation Project Phase 2, 461S 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
And Job and Family Services Department, resolution authorizing execution of a service agreement between Lake Tran and the Lake County Board of Commissioners on behalf of the Lake County Department of Job and Family Services to provide transportation services to eligible Medicaid clients under the Non-Emergency Medical Transportation NEMT program in an amount not to exceed $638,750, effective July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution approving Lake County Department of Job and Family Services vouchers, date of warrant June 7th, 2024, in the amount of $90,017.74.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
In the Commissioner's Office, resolution reappointing Charles Zibble to the Lake Tran Board of Trustees for a term ending May 15, 2027.
Now, just to note, this resolution was tabled at our last meeting, so if the board wishes to consider it, we would need a motion to bring the resolution back to the table.
So moved, sir.
Second.
Any discussion?
I believe we did get word back from legal. I think Auditor Galloway might have said it best. You know, you go from this discussion of matter of law to matter of numbers to discussion of politics. But I do believe legal, you looked into it and satisfied yourself that there are no actual conflicts of interest apparent.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then we will vote on the motion to untable.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes, and now we have the original motion before us to reappoint Chuck Zibble to the Lake Tran Board of Trustees. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Should we move to approve first?
That's true. We should have a motion to approve. Do we have said motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Then I will second the motion. Second it. Any discussion now? I apologize for jumping ahead.
If I may, sir.
Absolutely.
So I'm thankful that we took the time to do due diligence. The concern was, I think, a matter subject to fair debate. The concern being a dual role, being on the Lake Tran board as vice president, being on the, I believe it's Friends of Lake Tran board as treasurer. I think it's fair, and we should enter into the record that although it was not disclosed on the application for reappointment, in fact, I believe Mr. Zibble expressly said he only serves actively on the Lake Tran board. I think one of the concerns is not a matter of deception or omission. I believe it's a lack of appreciation of these are two separate entities. I will say I have not heard back from Mr. Zibble. I did reach out a couple times. I had hoped to have this conversation with him directly. But when it comes down to where are we at, who do we see ourselves asking to represent the interests of this board, we are the sole appointing authority to Lake Tran. And recently the Lake Tran board saw that they were very generously receiving a lot of grant monies. You know, they've been very diligent at seeking out as many outside dollars as possible, and they were amassing a tremendous amount of money, which is, again, a good thing, which allowed them the opportunity to temporarily suspend the collection of their additional 0.25% sales tax. Again, commendable. Some board members chose to support that. Thank goodness the majority did. Some did not. Chuck Zibble was one who did not. Just a matter of concern, being that he is one of the people who worked diligently within the community to be able to put the campaign on for the tax increase. Does he feel comfortable suspending the collection of said tax? And one of the concerns that I think we should also keep in mind is when this discussion was being led up to for quite a while, rather than looking at options of suspending and spending down surpluses, projects were being suggested as to how to spend the money before it gets taken away. Projects that I'm sure some people like, but others question why does a transit system, paratransit in this case, want to get involved in sidewalk programs and building marinas. Those are not the kind of things that I think the public expects from the tax dollars. Now, if there are grant dollars coming in from the outside, great, more power to them. But again, just wanted to get that into the conversation that philosophically there are some things that are matter subject to fair debate and scrutiny. So thank you for your indulgence.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Commissioner.
I talked with Mr. Zibble, and I think where he serves on two different entities is not uncommon here in Lake County. I know Lake Metro Parks has similar things, as well as many other entities here in Lake County. He's been on the board a long time. He's put in a long, but I think as a board, we don't want everyone that look in the same direction. We want people with different views, people with different opinions on how things should be done, and the majority does rule. So,
thank you. For my part, I would just say I think we have a very deliberative Board of Commissioners. This appointment is an example of that, how we've taken multiple meetings, we've waited to get all the facts before we've called a vote. And while I have not spoken to Mr. Zibble about this particular vote or issue, I have spoken to board members who voted for it and board members who voted against it. And a concern that I heard from both of them was that a resolution was proposed and drafted and voted on at the same meeting. And there were serious problems with the initial draft, and there was a mistake. It referred to one tax rather than another. And while I think they hopefully, probably were able to proof it and get it to a legally satisfactory status before it was voted on. To draft a resolution in the middle of a meeting and vote on it is pretty extraordinary. And I don't think that our board would vote for a major tax issue, a major tax reduction, if we said, let's draft it right now. Let's take a 20-minute break, have Mr. Hackman go write it up, and we'll vote on it sight unseen. That's pretty extraordinary. So I think that the board members were considering a lot of issues in addition to the virtue of should this tax decrease be implemented, in addition to should we vote on a resolution that we're literally writing during the meeting. That's pretty extraordinary. I've not heard of any other legislative or quasi-legislative body move that quickly. And while expediency can be a virtue, the failure to deliberate can be dangerous, because if that had been the wrong amount, if someone had written increase instead of decrease, we can imagine the problems that could come out of a typo. And despite the best efforts of a human being, we all make mistakes. Human error is not something we can wish away. So I just want to make it clear that there was a lot of complex motivations that went into that vote. And I doubt the Board of Commissioners would have voted yes on that resolution if it had been brought to us at a meeting and we were told, draft it and vote on it now. We'd probably say that's a very intriguing proposal. We need to consider it. We will have a draft from the legal department that we will review, and then we'll bring it to the meeting to have a discussion. I doubt we would say, let's draft it and vote on it at that meeting. So I understand this is a very important issue. I just don't want to oversimplify it and say that everybody voted for it because they were for it and everyone voted against it because they were against it. When you ask a public official to vote on something that hasn't even been drafted yet, that's a pretty extraordinary request. So I commend the Lake Tran Board for giving money back to the taxpayer. I commend the Lake Tran Board for working as hard as they do. But if I were asked to vote on something that had yet to be drafted, you have to vote on the bill to know what's in it, my vote would be no, to be quite honest. And that doesn't mean I wouldn't vote for it the next meeting after I've had a chance to read it and proofread it and make sure it reflected my intent. But I just think in fairness to all the trustees, regardless of how they voted, that was a pretty extraordinary circumstance. And you can't say because someone voted no, they were against the substance when they were called to the question literally the same day the resolution had been drafted. And I think in fairness to the full board of 9 trustees, I've heard this concern from trustees who voted for it. So it's not simply an excuse for those who voted no. Those who voted for it felt very uncomfortable that they had to make a choice right on the spot without having the chance to make absolutely sure, put it through full legal review, and get a statement, yes, this does what we all say it's going to do. Any further discussion?
Mr. President.
Mr. Commissioner.
If I may, I will say I respect your perspective, but in order for everything you said to be accurate and true, would have to ignore the months of discussions and deliberations that led up to that seminal moment, if you will. And I'm not prepared to ignore that. And I would suggest this board should not ignore that. The fact that Brandon Dine's legal counsel had all the answers in hand is a powerful indication that due diligence was in fact being done. If I could use our own Mr. Hackman as an example. He doesn't like shooting from the hip, and he absolutely will not speculate. I would expect nothing less from Mr. Dines. So, again, people are going to vote their heart, they're going to vote their conscience. But I want to caution that I don't think it's the intention of this board to seem to be okay with raising taxes as long as someone else is doing it. So just wanted to get that into the conversation and into the record, please. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And my point was not to say that Lake Tran had not been discussing this very important issue in response to resident concerns, including your own, for a very long time. But there's a difference between discussing an issue and voting on a concrete proposal. And I think it's fair to say it's pretty extraordinary to draft a resolution in the middle of a meeting and then vote for it at that same meeting. That doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just extraordinary, and it's very understandable that some trustees, both those who voted for and those who voted against, would have concern with having to move so quickly, because mistakes can be made in that case. So without ignoring the great amount of work that you and others have put into this issue, I just want to highlight that that was a fairly extraordinary circumstance, and it wasn't easy for the board members to negotiate. Nonetheless, it just bears repeating what a great service the trustees at Lake Tran give, and we're grateful to all of them, including Mr. Lane Sheets, who's with us today, for their hard work and their diligence, as well as their attorney, Brandon Dines, who serves the county with great distinction. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
No.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution appointing Renee Ochaya to the Lake Tran Board of Trustees for a term ending May 15, 2027.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
If I may add, sir.
Absolutely.
I did have occasion to talk to her over the phone. She was very amenable to a telephone interview. I found her to be quite passionate and very studious. She sounds like she's going to be a rather frugal individual. I'm excited by people who are willing to try to get the value out of everything. And there is a difference between innovation and just spending. So I think she's going to be a good fit. I think she came highly recommended by the Lake Tran staff themselves. I think they're the ones who did the original referral. So that's good that they're actually looking for good people, but I think she's going to be a good fit. I think she also appreciates that although she is a mentor, employee, and a user of the Lake Tran system, that she will be representing all of Lake County and the interests. So again, I just wanted to get that into the discussion. So thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Commissioner.
I'd also like to add that there were several other people who expressed interest, but due to conflicts within their own companies and stuff like that, they were unable to be on the board. It just goes to show you how Lake Tran is, countywide, how much they are into a lot of the businesses and things function in this county. So lucky to have two people that are willing to step up. So
Thank you. Hearing no further discussion, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
In the Finance Department, resolution approving payment of bills as listed on the Commissioner's Approval Journal in the amount of $1,485,853.69.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution approving purchase orders as listed on the Commissioner's Purchase Order Approval Journal in the amount of $2,821,800.10.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution increasing appropriations for various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes.
Resolution transferring cash and appropriations within various general and non-general fund accounts.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Regovich.
Yes.
Commissioner Hammercheck.
Yes.
Commissioner Plechnik.
Yes. With the conclusion of resolutions, it's time for our departmental reports, starting with utilities.
Thank you, Commissioner. This Saturday, June 1st, we'll be holding our first household hazardous waste collection, special collection of the year. We'll have another one in September. If you can't make it to this one, it'll be at the Lake County Fairgrounds from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. The line is usually fairly long at 8 a.m. at the beginning, so if you're looking for a shorter line, maybe 10 or 11 o'clock is the best time to come. These are only two special collections of the year. We now have our other collections every day that the landfill is open for electronics and appliances and tires. Anytime the landfill is open, you can drop them off there. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. And Job and Family Services.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Do they take batteries at the hazardous waste drop-off, or is that any time?
Batteries at the household hazardous waste, not at the landfill.
I'll be around.
Okay.
That's a charged question. But on to Job and Family Services.
Not one of your better ones, but good nonetheless.
I'm running out of juice. What can I say?
Oh, better. Nice recovery.
All right, moving right along. I wanted to share today with the board that there is a new program through the state of Ohio called Summer EBT, or Sunbucks, S-U-N, Sunbucks. It's a new program in summer, for this summer of 2024, to help families buy food for their school-age children. During the summer months, families will receive a total of $120 for each eligible child, so that will be $40 for each month of the summer. Most eligible families will not have to take any action to receive this benefit. So if families are receiving food assistance or Ohio Works First cash assistance, free or reduced lunches at school, or they are enrolled in Medicaid, the children will automatically be enrolled in this program. And I just wanted to share with the public that if your child does not receive this benefit, but you think that your child is eligible, you should go online to the state of Ohio's website, which is sebt.ohio.gov to apply.
Thank you. And our county administrator is out for the day, so on to Madam Clerk.
I guess the next commissioner meeting is Thursday, June 6th at 10 a.m.
Thank you. And legal?
No reports, Commissioner.
Very good. So on to old business. Is there any old business before the commission?
If I may, sir?
Mr. Commissioner.
I'm gonna throw Mr. Massey's stuff into old business because it does seem to be a reoccurring thing. And Mr. Massey, it sounds like you got canceled. I did take the time to watch that video. Wow, that was an incredibly timed technical malfunction. So, wow, sad. But moving on to the Local Government Fund Alternate Formula Ad Hoc Committee, the request was made to bring some things before this board to have discussions, deliberations, and perhaps make decisions on one of the structures beyond what was presented at the Budget Commission meeting at Auburn Career Center was the model for including Lake Metro Parks in the funding stream. The suggestion is $100,000 for a period of 5 years. At that time, that's where the statutory review of alternate formulas in Ohio take place. Metro Parks could petition to have that continued for another 5 years, to have it amended up or down, have some opportunity, but there would be a sunset associated with it. The math would stay the same as was previously presented at Auburn. Let's see. Those were the big things, but Trustee Hillier wanted me to also discuss, he was not able to be here to state this himself. He wanted to make it abundantly clear that Paynesville Township Park, although it is located in Paynesville Township, is not a part of Paynesville Township government. It is not under the care, custody, and control of the Paynesville Township trustees. It is not their financial responsibility, and that the sole source of funding for the Paynesville Township Park, I believe it's Park District, is the local government fund. The will of the majority was that they should be deleted from the process to be receiving funding. The ongoing suggestion is that Paynesville Township Park District should merge into Lake Metro Parks. Lake Metro Parks has a management agreement on the majority of the property. There is a wooded swamp area that is not part of Lake Metro Parks' responsibility. By the way, Paul Polaggi was not able to also be here today, so forgive me if you see me switching a whole bunch of hats here, trying to make sure everybody's interests are brought before this board. But those are some of the sentiments and concerns. Also, Trustee Hillier had also looked to sharpen the pencil regarding the increases from townships. A couple of the concerns, I'm going to take some of these numbers off the top of my head, so forgive me if I get them a little bit wrong. Example being, for example, Concord getting, I think, about $8.35 per person currently. and other communities getting closer to 300 per person. The gain would be somewhere in the area of $50.69 per person, and the other community would be coming down to $269. Again, those are all approximates, but those perception concerns, and just trying to see if there was a little bit more flexibility that could be built in. Discussion was had, and Trustee Hilliard did accept that the proposal before the ad hoc committee being referred to the Budget Commission for incorporation into the legal documents that will be before this board, Mentor, and all the other entities who participate. Just wanted to get that again into the conversation. Additionally, there was a request that the City of Mentor and this board, as the two veto authorities, expedite the process so that other communities can say, okay, the two potential vetoes in this whole process have checked that box off and have moved forward. Those are some of the big things that were talked about. I know that Auditor Galloway has retained a outside legal advisor who has vast experience with this. I believe they're working closely with our prosecutor's office, the civil division, putting some documents together. I would highly encourage that we put something together that's not structured like the timeshare that we kind of got suckered into back in 1982. If I could use an analogy, that when the board in 2012 exited, it took quite a number of years to actually understand that it was no longer a valid instrument. So we need something that is clear and unambiguous, and those are the real key things. And again, just to state this board's position, I believe I've been operating in the belief that this board's position was do no harm. We are holding at, I believe we're at 10.8507%, something like that. We're not asking to lose any money. We're not asking to gain any money. We're just trying to do no harm. And this is where I believe Auditor Galloway said it best. We're now in the political phase and votes are being counted. What are people's tolerances? So again, those are some of the updates that were asked to be brought forward. And as we all well know, we can't have these kind of discussions, deliberations, let alone decisions outside of this public venue. So if there's anything specific, I'll be happy to answer any questions or address any concerns.
Thank you. Any further
Mr.
old
President.
business? Mr. Commissioner.
To add on to that, Commissioner Hamercheck, correct me if I'm, so each one of these entities has to then take the same legislation and pass it within their entity in order to vote on it, right?
It would require Mentor and the county both to approve it, and a majority of the other participants.
So they're all going to have to put it in front of their councils, their trustees, in order to pass it. So
yes, sir.
I remember early this year in January when this all started saying, we need to do this. I'm like, this is going to take 2 years. So I commend that board for doing it in 5 months. They did come a long way. A lot of work had been done. And I think the things they're working on now to put a bow on it, as Auditor Galloway said, is looking at the metro parks and things like this, things they've been trying to accommodate along the way, which I can appreciate as a former mayor, because when you're taking a loss, it's hard to do. But like we used to say in negotiation, if everybody walks away from the table a little unhappy, you've done it right. So it looks like after that presentation, there wasn't a whole lot of questions in the room, and so they answered a lot of questions in their presentation, and it was pretty nice for them to put that together, and it was good to see that come together. So I commend your work there too.
Thanks.
Any further discussion?
If I could just add, we do have John Mara, who has participated in the majority of the meetings. Mayor Mara, always good, spirited conversations, candid, blunt. Very important to keep the conversation moving and explore all options, because those are the kinds of questions that our colleagues serving as mayors, trustees, council members, those are the kind of questions that are going to be asked, but also those are the kind of questions that the public's going to want answers to.
I wasn't invited yesterday, though.
I was a little taken aback by that, candidly.
Just to bring that out there.
That Mayor Mara is off microphone, but he did indicate that he did not receive an invitation to attend yesterday's meeting. So, also to Auditor Galloway's point that this will be the, hopefully I get the words right so that I don't try to put words in his mouth. This will be, the recommendation from the ad hoc committee will be the only plan to be considered, although others could be submitted. He said it best, and I think he used the term, it's an up or down process. So I don't want to say take it or leave it, because that has the wrong connotation, but it's going to be, this is either it or not, and this is, again, this is the political phase of it. And there's going to be some explaining to do, and we need to be prepared to do that. So this board needs to be prepared to move forward, because I think there's a lot of communities looking to us, as they are also looking to the city of Mentor, because that was early on. I think there were some people who were accusing the county of doing a money grab. This was the exact opposite. I had earlier indicated, why doesn't the county just go to zero and be done with it? If that's not a show of good faith, I don't know what is. Holding position of what our current receivable is, I believe, is also a tremendous show of good faith. And I think there's a deeper appreciation of just how much money Lake County is leaving in the kitty. It's anywhere from 30 to 50% Lake County would be eligible to take, and that's significant. The fact that we're taking just over 10%, again, 10 point, I think it's 10.8507%. So it's modest, and I believe we are the lowest in the state of Ohio. There's one county that periodically will go to zero, and they just keep renewing that, but they are not taking the hard stance that we are, by baking it into the alternate formula. So again, thank you both for your trust in going to these meetings and contributing, but again, I also wanted to acknowledge Mayor Mara and offering up a number of suggestions and concerns.
Thank you. Any further old business? Hearing none, any new business?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so focused on the local government, if I may, sir.
Absolutely.
We also had a training session yesterday for the One Ohio, the various regions. Lake County is part of Region 13. The One Ohio solution is the nationwide settlement that Ohio entered into on tracks 1 and 2 of the opioid litigation, being the drug manufacturers, drug distributors. I can tell you that it was an interesting training class, because the number of discussions that they had, it was very familiar. Carl Dondorf, who also serves representing the townships, and Judy Moran representing the cities. We've worked diligently, but I got to tell you, it's very gratifying when you see our work product showing up in the state model, the model and the metrics by which evaluations are done. It was virtually word for word what we had decided on months ago. In fact, I think Commissioner Regulus might remember that conversation taking place in the backseat of the car coming back from Michigan. So yes, there's a lot of meetings that take place in all odd places, virtual meetings from computers and Zoom and using mobile hotspots, but I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge Nina Germano from our Lake County Prosecutor's Office. She very early on came on board and assisted, not necessarily representing Region 13, but the Lake County representatives, and she worked closely with assigned counsel from the Ohio Attorney General's office. There was a fixed dollar amount that each region was assigned. We were assigned, I believe it was $10,000, and because of her diligence and just the wisdom that young lady demonstrates, it really maximized the value that we received back. And again, that feedback also found its way down to the regional, the master body down in Columbus. And I also have to acknowledge Jim O'Leary, who is working with us as outside counsel. At that time, candidly, I think he was volunteering his time, just getting things in the right orientation so that Lake County was well represented and that our interests were protected. the structure that we adopted in Region 13, Ashtabula, Lake, Geauga, and Portage counties, we all had equal representation. So the potential was there to basically hijack dollars. And we put a number of safeguards and practices in place where that could not occur. And that goes back to the conversations that we also hear from the public of, hey, when you got these majorities, you can get hoodwinked and hijacked. We made sure that that was baked into the process very early on, that everything was evidence-based. But that level of commitment, keeping things in due form, referring to statutory authority, and having language that is clear and unambiguous, powerful. It's paying dividends. And I also have to say that Kim Frazier from the Adams Board has also been a tremendous asset in discussing what are the key things that are essential in the county. So there were a lot of players, but I just want to emphasize Lake County can take a lot of pride that there was a tremendous representation and it's actually hit on the state level, because they could have just plowed us. But that was a good meeting. And one of the other things that was pointed out was, and this might not be a bad idea for suggesting all boards, the Ohio Ethics Commission, they have a 1-hour class on ethics. It's powerful. I think because there's a lot of things that people just assume are okay that really aren't. And sometimes just a simple 1-hour investment of time. And that was one of the requirements that the state had baked in, just to avoid any innocent mistakes. But it's kind of like, what do they say? Not knowing the law is not an excuse. So, those little things I think are powerful. We might want to consider that back to our Lake Train discussion, that could also be a benefit there. So we might want to give some thought to that. But this is something that we can grow on and, again, take some pride in. And I thank you for letting me circle back on that.
Thank you. Any more new business? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn into executive session for legal pending litigation. No business will take place after this session. Do we have such a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second, sir.
Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Regovich?
Yes.
Commissioner Hamilton?
Yes.
Commissioner Plutchik?
Yes. We stand adjourned.
I didn't get into it, but there's